Shabbat Shalom. Welcome back to Take Time for Torah, 5 Minutes with Rabbi Gaber. I would like to wish Mazel Tov to all of those who have graduating high school seniors this week. It's such a wonderful experience to watch a child graduate from high school and really begin those steps into the world. But as we're thinking about taking steps into the world, one of the experiences that almost everyone will face at one point or another is the question of how do you face someone else's anger? When someone comes at you who is incensed and enraged, how do you handle their anger? Well, Moses gives us a hint. In chapter 16, verse 5 of this week's Torah portion, Korach is leading a rebellion. And Moses, instead of confronting him immediately, actually delays him. And he says that he spoke to Korach and to all his company, saying, "Tomorrow the Lord will show who are his and who is holy, and will cause him to come near to him. Him whom he has chosen will he cause to come near to him." In other words, tomorrow God will announce who are part and who is separate. So how do you face that anger? I mean, I remember once as a resident advisor at JTS facing a student's anger and a parent's anger about their room assignment and just yelling and screaming how upset they were about how they had to move in, all of this stuff. And I just remained calm because I knew this wasn't my fault and that there was not a whole lot to do, but they had to vent their anger. And someone asked me, how did you remain calm? Because I knew what was really going on with them. As Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar in Pirkei Avot teaches, do not appease your fellow in the time of his anger. When someone's anger is raging, it is best to give him time to cool down. It's impossible to speak to someone at such a time. The idea of giving people a moment to cool off, to step back, that's what Moshe was doing. He was confronted with Korach and Datan and Aviram, who were leading the rebellion. Moses confronts them and says, tomorrow God will show us who is correct. Moses gives them to the next day before confronting them. Perhaps they will change their minds. Perhaps they'll calm down. As it teaches, one of the rebels, On, the son of Pelet, backed out of the rebellion. The Midrash teaches that his wife convinced him that he should not become involved. But with the exception of On, the others were hot. They continued to be angry even the next day. And no matter how much Moshe listened to their complaints, no matter how much he sympathized and empathized with him, he heard that they had a great deal of frustration and anger. He said, I hear you, I understand. I felt this kind of anger before. These phrases were meant towards pacifying someone, helping them to calm down, knowing that someone is listening. But what if you're confronted with the anger from someone who has a legitimate complaint? Well, an apology will go a long way. Few things take the energy out of anger when someone is confronted with, you're right, and I'm sorry that this happened. How do we correct this? How do we make it better? To say I'm sorry means to humble oneself. This was Moshe's greatest strength, according to the Torah. In spite of his great leadership skills, there was no man more humble than Moshe. On the other hand, this was Pharaoh's great weakness. When confronted with Moshe, even when Pharaoh knew he was wrong, he hardened his heart and he stuck to his guns. He couldn't admit to himself that perhaps he was sorry or that he had done something wrong. But what if you are confronted with this undeserved anger? What do you do when you did nothing wrong? You have nothing to be sorry for. Well, when you're confronted with this, how do you do? Well, in the end, Moshe stuck to his guns. He said, I'm standing against Korach and his rebellion, and that we did nothing wrong, and that in the end Moshe had to stand his ground and not let Korach get away with it. And that's the other thing we have to recognize. Sometimes the anger may be there as theatrics, to push us to go do something different. But if we're principled and know what we're doing is right, and we can prove that what we're doing is right, then we should stick to our values and not allow anyone to sway us. You know, as a rabbi, I am so often confronted by people who are angry. Maybe they're angry at the synagogue, maybe they're angry at a previous rabbi, maybe they're angry at God. I don't know, but I end up symbolizing all of that. And what I have had to learn and continue to learn every day is that when we are confronted with those people, we have to allow them to express their anger, express their disappointment, and sometimes that begins to help them calm down. As my colleague Rabbi Michael Gold, who is the inspiration for this, quoted from someone else, anger is, in a sense, like a hot coal. It's so hot that you have to help them learn to drop that hot coal, to let go of their anger. And in that way, they learn something about themselves, and we learn something as well. I wish you a wonderful Shabbat. Have a great week. Shabbat Shalom. Bye-bye.
Da